So you can actually see the head of him in the sack, I think, at one point. It's like really brief.
That's the last thing he's stuffing in. But I guess originally you actually saw the head. And they had to cut it or else it would be NC-17.
I love it. I mean, that's just like, oh my God, he's killing that kid too.
Tim Burton's note is like, kids are always safe in horror movies. And as a kid watching horror movies, it always frustrated me that the kid was always safe and was never in real danger.
Yeah.
So I decided, the kid can die.
Oh man, that's rough. That is rough. But hey, I mean, I got to respect that. Well, you're not saying it. Oh, yeah, see it. Okay. Ready?
Yep.
I'm Mike Field.
I'm Mike Butler.
And we've returned from the graveyard of podcasts to bring you a 5-episode block of shows as you now enter Forgotten Horror Part 5, A New Beginning. Each episode, we discuss a film that, for a variety of reasons, was forgotten by audiences. Maybe they were being attacked by a creature or chased down by a headless horseman while walking home from the pub. Or perhaps the movie didn't catch on with an audience in its initial run, because they were pod people. We'll discuss what we love about the movie, or perhaps don't love about it, but we'll always recommend you revisit it. If you survived the Silver Shamrock mask promotion, we want to hear from you. We're on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Like, share, and subscribe. Our podcast is available on all platforms for your listening displeasure.
You did it. You got through the Silver Shamrock.
I purposely tried to go slow so I would not get through it.
I noticed, and I'm sure our viewers also noticed the smile as you got through that. You were just like, yes.
Well, I'm happy with myself. I'm proud. I'm proud that I was able to get through that tongue twister, even though I wrote the tongue twister like an idiot. But you know what? I got through it and we're good. And now we're on our way. How are you today, Mr. Butler?
I am doing all right. I got shipped out from my cushy job in New York to this small town in upstate New York.
In the 1800s, in the 1799.
Yeah, 1799.
Yeah.
I got sent back, and I'm just ill-equipped for this. I mean, heads are rolling, people are dying. I don't know what I'm doing. And I'm a pretty big coward too, so I don't know what.
Well, that's well. All right, Butler. What movie are we doing today?
We are doing Sleepy Hollow.
What's it about?
Set in 1799, Sleepy Hollow is based on Washington Irving's classic tale, The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. Which, I mean, if you don't know this movie, you should at least know that tale. Faithful to the dreamy, custom-bound world that Irving paints in his story, the film mixes horror, fantasy, and romance and features an extraordinary cast of characters that dabble in the supernatural. That's not a synopsis at all.
Who's dabbling in the supernatural?
Everybody, apparently.
Interesting. I just realized for the first 2-3 minutes of this podcast, I have like this radio voice going on. What is my problem?
Hello, and you're talking.
It's really, really inauthentic.
Ichabod Crane is sent to Sleepy Hollow to investigate the decapitations of 3 people.
I didn't know we're still doing synopsis.
The legendary apparition of the Headless Horseman. I just realized my first synopsis is absolutely not really a synopsis.
Well, you chided everyone in the first synopsis about how they should have known this story and read this short story.
They should still, yes.
How long is the short story? Do you remember?
I had to read it way back in the day. It is not long.
It isn't?
It's long enough. It's short enough for you to read it in like middle school.
All right. Well, let's get into it. Sleepy Hollow has a runtime of 105 minutes. It's rated R. Production budget of somewhere between 70 million and 100 million, depending upon where you read it. Came out on November 19th, 1999. Not technically the Thanksgiving weekend. That was the Friday before the Thanksgiving weekend. But still, that's a big release. It's a holiday release. Its opening weekend, it did $30 million. Domestic, 101 million. International, 105 million for a worldwide total of $206 million, doubling its budget. And we're probably going to have some explaining to do when we explain why we think this is forgotten, Butler. Production company was Mandalay Pictures, Scott Rudin Productions, American Zoetrope, and Tim Burton Productions, distributed by Paramount Pictures domestically and Summit Entertainment internationally. So I said it came out on the 19th of November in a wide release. It went up against The World Is Not Enough, one of Butler's favorite Bond films.
No. Although Die Another Day makes The World Is Not Enough look like Bridge on the River Kwai.
Die Another Day is with the diamonds in the dude's face.
The diamonds, right? And the ice temple.
But I like when they're the ice scene when they're chasing them down the ice when they're driving the car.
That's okay. The best part of Die Another Day is the opening when he gets captured and he's tortured. I was like, that's kind of that's tough. That's like action movie.
Yeah.
Like that's cool.
I like the song too. I don't know why.
The Madonna song's not
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah. All right.
The World's Not Enough has a good title song too.
True. That's
By
true.
Garbage.
The limited release date, limited movies that week were Mansfield Park and Liberty Heights. Now, the week after, you have two different weekdays. You have 2 different days of releases. You have the Thanksgiving weekend release on the November the 24th, and then you have that Friday after Thanksgiving. You had a couple movies that came out on Thanksgiving weekend. The Wednesday the 24th, you had End of Days, the Schwarzenegger's Fighting the Devil movie, and Toy Story 2, which was obviously a massive hit.
Oh yeah.
On the 26th, the Friday after Thanksgiving, in a limited release, you had Flawless and Ride with the Devil. Did you see Ride with the Devil with Tobey Maguire? Wasn't that Ang Lee? Civil War. Jewel, I believe, was in this.
I don't think I did.
Okay.
I know of it, but I don't think I saw it.
Okay. All right. The week before the 19th, the 12th, you had in a wide release The Messenger, the story of Joan Arc. It was only called The Messenger, I believe, back then. It wasn't. I think they added the subtitle afterwards.
Yeah.
And then you had Anywhere But Here. That's the Woody Allen film. And Dogma, the Kevin Smith movie.
I love Dogma.
Some people love it. Some people don't.
You don't love it. It's like your least favorite Kevin Smith
I like
movie, right?
parts of Dogma. I don't know. It's my. I think one of my favorite Kevin Smith films is Chasing Amy. But it's just there's parts of Dogma I'm just like not that I hate it. I just don't love it as like the other stuff that he does. You haven't seen the new Clerks. You haven't seen Clerks 3.
I have not seen Clerks 3.
You should. That's good. You should watch it just because you watch Clerks and Clerks 2, and for me,
right.
We're gonna get on a tangent, but for me, Clerks came out was when we started kind of doing film, me and my buddies.
So it was like an inspirational kind of
a little bit.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like watching me back then, because when they're in the movie, they do some flashback stuff where they show some pictures. I'm just like, oh man, I remember that. I remember that scene. I remember this. So it was a little heartfelt. I'm not gonna say I cry. I didn't cry. I'm just saying it was heartfelt. All right. So anyways, you also, the Wednesday before that, the 10th, you had a wide release of Pokemon, the first movie, Mewtwo Strikes Back, mother's favorite, and Light It Up.
I did see that.
And Light It Up. I did not see Light It Up. I did not see any of those films. Okay.
You didn't see Pokemon, the first movie?
Mewtwo Strikes Back. Is it
Pikachu
Is
died.
it Mewtwo or Mewtwo?
Mewtwo.
Mewtwo. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I didn't see that. Who dies? Pikachu.
Pikachu. It's sad. When you watch as a kid, you're like,
did you cry?
As a kid, yeah, because you thought he actually died. They take a while to bring him back, and it's just like, this isn't a kid's movie. What are you doing?
That's like when the G.I. Joe film had a movie and they killed Duke in it. And I didn't cry, but I was like, oh man, they really killed Duke. My God, they actually killed somebody. And then he came back the next season. He just shows up or something.
You can't kill anyone in G.I. Joe.
So annoyed. This movie was directed by Tim Burton, who has been nominated for 2 Oscars, but they were for animated features. So in a producer role for Frankenweenie, which we did on the show, and Corpse Bride.
He wasn't nominated for Big Fish.
No.
Oh, wow.
He did Big Fish. He also did Batman, and the 1989 Batman, and Pee-wee's Big Adventure. And I bring that up because obviously Paul Rubens passed away recently, which is pretty sad. So rest in peace. Screenplay and story. So there are 2 story credits, and we'll probably get into that a little bit. The story credit.
Yeah.
So there's a screenplay credit by Andrew Kevin Walker, who wrote the screenplay. The screenplay was also, I think it was an uncredited rewrite or script doctor by Tom Stoppard. I have to.
It was
look
doctored. Yeah.
Yeah. But there's a story credit to give him to Kevin Yeager, and we'll get into that later on. Andrew Kevin Walker has done Seven, The Wolfman. He's also done the upcoming 2023 film The Killer, which is coming out this year. And then he's kind of I think he gets a lot of his work. He's a script doctor as well. So I think he does a lot of stuff. If you don't know what script doctor is,
pro bono or under the radar.
Yeah, people get paid to rewrite other people's work, but they get paid to not have their credit put onto the movie. And they get a lot of money for it. A script doctor is kind of like a dream job. I would love to do that.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Kevin Yeager has done, he's a top makeup effects artist, but he has also he's worked on the TV show Bones and Bride of Chucky and a couple other horror films. Cinematographer was Emmanuel Lubezki, who's won 3 Oscars for The Revenant, Birdman, and Gravity. And he was also nominated for an Oscar for Tree of Life, Children of Men, The New World, and A Little Princess. Composer was Danny Elfman. I'm a big Danny Elfman guy. I don't know if you are.
I like when Danny Elfman does Tim Burton type stuff.
Right.
I don't like Danny Elfman when he tries to do other scores.
Okay.
I think he kind of tones. It's almost like he's forced to not be himself.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't like that. Like, I don't like his score in Terminator.
Okay.
And he did a couple of other like more serious dramas recently. And I'm just like, it feels like you're trying to like limit Danny Elfman from being Danny Elfman.
Well, have you ever, I think we've talked about this. Have you ever heard his CD where he's basically, it's an orchestra and they're performing his music that he's written I have to give it to you. I have to show
No,
it to
I've
you.
I've heard his regular music.
No,
which is
it's
weird.
it's really good.
Okay.
But see, here's the thing with Danny Elfman. He did Mission Impossible. I like the the music in Mission Impossible. Aside from the one that's you always hear, the Lalo Schifrin one.
Yeah.
The music in the first Mission Impossible is more. I can recognize it more than any other music in any other Mission Impossible. So did you like his music in that?
I'd have to listen to the original Mission Impossible.
What do you remember? It was
before.
like dun 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 dun.
Oh yeah.
Like there's nothing like that in any of the other Mission Impossibles.
But that's because it's big. It's kind of
sure.
He's almost kind of like John Williams-esque in that it's like he's a big. If you get Danny Elfman, you should expect a big bombastic kind of score. Your music is going to be part of the movie instead of just helping the movie along.
So for those who don't know, Danny Elfman was nominated for 4 Oscars for Milk, Big Fish, Men in Black, and Good Will Hunting. He's also done The Night Before Christmas. He's actually the voice, right, of Jack Skellington.
He's the singing.
He's the
voice
singing
of Jack.
voice of Jack Skellington.
And he did the Simpsons theme.
He's in many of the Simpsons stuff. He's also in Spider-Man.
Yeah, I love that Spider-Man soundtrack. It's so good.
We're talking about the Sam Raimi Spider-Man.
Yes.
So not to be confused with 45 other ones. Edited by Chris LeBenson and Joel Negron. LeBenson is nominated for 2 Oscars, one for Top Gun and Crimson Tide. He's also done Uncharted, a movie that we do not want to talk about, and Triple X. Negron has done Transformers: Rise of the Beast, the recent one. Butler has yet to see that. Thor: Ragnarok and 21 Jump Street, the movie. Produced by Scott Rudin and Adam Schroeder. Rudin has been nominated for 10 Oscars for Best Pictures. He's won 1, No Country for Old Men. And Schroeder has done Chronicle, The Truman Show, and A Simple Plan. And then there's an executive producer credit by Francis Ford Coppola, who I think I don't know why he's the executive. He must have started the project or something.
I think he started the project when it was still at MGM.
Yeah.
And Tim Burton, until he saw the first cut of the trailer, didn't even know Francis Ford Coppola was attached to the project.
Right. And he's obviously Godfather and a bunch of other. He actually has a movie coming out this year.
I think he does. Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah. You have Johnny Depp as Ichabod Crane. I don't know if anyone is familiar with Johnny Depp as I try to get my notes because they seem to have slid off the page. Okay, here we go. Johnny Depp has been nominated for 3 Oscars. Can you name those movies? We did one of them.
Pirates of the Caribbean.
Well, which one? The first one?
The first one,
Okay,
obviously.
right.
No one's nominated the other ones. Although I don't hate the other ones. Chocolat.
Nope.
No?
No. We did one of the movies for Forgotten Cinema.
We did a Johnny Depp movie where he's
We
nominated? I got this. I've got this. It's not Chocolat?
No. I said
Oh,
no
it's got to be.
first
It's
time.
the only one we have there. He has to be nominated for Sweeney Todd.
Yes.
Okay.
And Finding Neverland. So
I always forget he's in Finding Neverland.
Yes,
I like
yes.
Finding Neverland.
Yes, amongst the many, many other films that Johnny Depp is in. Christina Ricci as Katrina Van Tassel. She's from Mermaids, Casper, Speed Racer, and the TV show Yellow Jackets.
And the Addams Family.
And the Addams Family, yes. Miranda Richardson as Lady Van Tassel and Crone. She plays 2 parts, which we'll get into. She's nominated for 2 Oscars, one for Damage and the other for Tom and Viv. She's also in The Hours, The Crying Game, and if you're more recently, she's in the TV show Good Omens, which is on Amazon. Michael Gambon as Baltus Van Tassel. He's in Gosford Park, The Cook, The Wife, The Thief, and His Lover, and he is obviously Dumbledore in the Harry Potter series. He took over for
Richard Harris.
There we go.
And he was in Layer Cake, which is another movie that we did.
We did. Casper Van Dien as Brom Van Brunt. We're like smack dab in the middle of when Casper Van Dien was popular. Like
he's like what, 2 years after Starship Troopers?
Shallow, yeah. And then there's maybe like a couple movies after this, and then poof.
Yep.
He's gone.
Well, I think he's also related to royalty, so I don't think he needs to.
He also has like 15 kids and something like that.
Yeah.
And like he's off. I'm not saying he's, downtrodden. I'm just saying he's no longer a big time
as big
movie.
as he was. Yeah. He was blowing up and then it just faded away.
He's Starship Troopers, Tarzan and the Lost City. Check that out. And the Omega Code. Jeffrey Jones as Reverend Steenwick from Ferris Bueller's Day Off, Howard the Duck in the TV show Deadwood. Richard Griffiths as Magistrate Phillips. He's in the Harry Potter series. Naked Gun 2.5 and Chariots of Fire. Ian McDiarmid as Dr. Lancaster. Who is he, Butler?
He is Emperor Sheev Palpatine.
Correct. He's also in Dirty Rotten Scoundrels and Gorky Park. Michael Goff as Notary Hardenbrook, who is
Alfred
from the Batman.
the Tim Burton Alfred.
Yes, he actually came out of retirement for this film.
I read that. I thought that was cool.
He's also in Top Secret, which is a very funny film, funnier than Airplane, maybe. That's right, I said it. And Out of Africa. I like Airplane, but Top Secret is really good. Mark Pickering as young Maspeth from Calendar Girls and Les Miserables, and Christopher Walken as the Hessian Horseman. He's been nominated for 2 Oscars, won one for The Deer Hunter, and then he was nominated for Catch Me If You Can. And he's also in the movie Hairspray. And then you had Lisa Marie in here as Lady Crane from Ed Wood, Mars Attacks, and The Lords of Salem. Christopher Lee makes an appearance in the beginning here, a Burgomaster from Lord of the Rings and Star Wars series. I read that his work in this movie kind of put him back
in the spotlight
to get Lord of the Rings, which is amazing.
He says it in his autobiography, so it's got to be somewhat true.
I think maybe because people forgot, and then they were like, "Oh, you worked with Christopher Lee."
Oh, sure,
yeah. Martin Landau is an uncredited role in this. P.S. Peter Van Garrett. He's in the beginning. He gets his head chopped off. Spoiler. He's won an Oscar for Ed Wood. He's in Crimes and Misdemeanors and Tucker, A Man in His Dream, just to name a few, and a movie that we did, Butler.
I was trying to think of the name of it. I can't think of it off the top of my head.
Royal Rumble, right? No,
Ready to Rumble.
Damn.
Ready.
Yeah, excellent. And he passed away too. I didn't realize that as well.
He's also an X-Files Fight the Future.
It's a great movie.
It is great.
We like it. We're unapologetically fans of the X-Files movies.
Also, Christopher Walken, I think is interesting to note because it's a small role, was in Batman Returns with Tim Burton.
This is true.
There's a lot of people in this that Tim Burton has.
Well, because
used
people
again,
you like, you're familiar with. I have no
Same
problem
with the crew
that.
when you were naming them. He uses a lot of his people. Yeah,
absolutely. All right, we have both seen this film. I probably have seen this film one time in the theater, maybe another time. I don't know when or where. I've seen probably bits and pieces of it. I'm sure you have as well.
I used to. I know. I can't remember if I saw it in the theater. I remember when I got it. I watched it numerous times when it first came out, and then I haven't seen it in probably over a decade. So
interesting. So I'm curious. First thoughts. Anything changed with you in this watch?
I really liked this movie, but there are things in this movie that, watching it again now, being older, having gone to school, learning about storytelling, and just something that you pick up having watched more experience, having more experience with films, is that there's a lot of plot holes and contrivances that are just like, well, that's convenient, or how do you know this again? But I don't think it detracts from the story, because I still think we'll get into it, the set design, the cinematography, the acting, the characters, the score. It's all a really good Tim Burton package. And it's if you're a fan of Tim Burton, which I am, I think it's just a really great film to watch. It's a really great Halloween watch. But I do think that watching it again, there are some things that I was like, But
okay.
For the most part, I still really do like it. And I could probably forgive those things.
Interesting. All right. So maybe we should go into the story first before we go into kind of like.
What about you? How do you feel? Because now I'm curious. Now you're interesting. Now I want to know.
No, I think one of the things that I always liked about this movie was that the idea that they built the entire set. They built the entire town on a set.
Sure.
And they used the entire atmospheric conditions within the studio. They shot this in London to create like the mist and the fog, and I thought that
a lot
really,
of forced perspective that they had to use. Yeah,
I mean the filmmaker in me would really have wished they shot on location in upstate New York, where the story takes place, and they tried to, and they just really couldn't find something that really matched, I guess, what the look they were looking for.
Still probably looked like what it did, or something.
Yeah, but it was nice to see. I always like I don't care if it's a set, but I like it because it feels like Hollywood. It feels like a movie.
Yeah.
So, and I think there's a comment by McDermott who said it was because he comes from Star Wars Phantom Menace. So I guess this was shot on the same location that they shot Episode 1, Phantom Menace, and he made the comment like it was nice to come from. And I was just shooting with it, was just blue everywhere. And I come to here, and he says the same thing. It felt like the way movies used to be made, where you could work with the set and everything. You could touch it, you can feel it, and it helps you get into character. I think there's something very, very real about that, and I think that that's the one thing I enjoyed. So I always remember that.
Sure, yeah.
Just the look of it and the behind the scenes stuff. I guess. I mean, I like it. I like the movie. It's not. I mean, Ichabod Crane in the short story is supposed to be this like gangly, ugly man. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, you're not going to do that. I know that Johnny Depp said that. Yeah, no, let's do that. Let's.
You wanted prosthetics and stuff.
You're not going to do that. You know what I mean?
We're going to sell tickets, Johnny. We can't.
Yeah. I like the changes they made. He's not a school teacher. He's an investigator.
I did as well. Apparently, in the original script, before it was doctored, when Tim Burton came on, they changed it from being a school teacher. I don't think if you kept the story, which by the sound of it, they did. It doesn't make sense. A school teacher who's afraid of everything would be investigating murders.
Well, that's the thing too. Plus, you're creating a protagonist now that you can root for because he's trying to solve a mystery. You can root for him because he's being brave and courageous, and he's standing up to some kind of evil. If you have the old Ichabod Crane where he's just like a mousy guy and he's just like whining,
then you don't care what happens to him.
You're like, I don't give a crap about this guy. So no, I think you had to make that change in order for us to actually be into it. So I don't think anything changed for me, liking it or not liking it. I think it's I like the style of it. I don't know if I would. I think I probably have the same issues that you have. I've never really felt this film was like. It's never a film that I've been like, you really need to see Sleepy Hollow. I'll be like, I saw Sleepy Hollow. That's pretty good. But like, it's not a film that like I rush to watch, if that makes sense.
I haven't watched it in a long time, but I would say if somebody likes Tim Burton, or even if they're like, I don't know if I like Tim Burton or not. It's everything's so like, and they only think Nightmare Before Christmas or something, which isn't even his film or his directed film.
Well, it's his idea.
It's his idea and style. Right. I would say watch Sleepy Hollow because it's Tim Burton's style, but it is like a murder mystery, like horror thriller. It's not necessarily his typical shtick in a way, although the style is within his. Well,
aside from the pumpkin in the beginning, which obviously is almost pulled directly from
that's the Scarecrow from the beginning of Nightmare.
There's not. It doesn't. If you didn't know it was Tim Burton, I don't know if you would guess it would be Tim Burton directed this film.
There's still like the light, the colors, the look of the costumes, especially Johnny Depp's costume, Ichabod's like glasses and stuff.
Well, that's stuff, the props, the stuff that he pulls out of his bag. Yes.
But yeah, the trees, I mean, they're all bare trees, but they aren't quite as expressionistically long and pointed as they usually are in his other films. It's definitely not to the point of like Beetlejuice when they're in the afterlife or Edward Scissorhands in every scene in Edward Scissorhands. But I still think it definitely has Tim Burton style, but in a more real format to make it more of a thriller kind of movie.
Well, let's get into, because let's circle back. We'll circle back to the behind the scenes stuff. Let's get into some of the plot holes that you didn't like. Let's get into the story of this movie. Give me something that right off the bat you noticed and you weren't really happy with.
The first thing was it was absolutely when Ichabod sees the tree. The dead tree, where
towards the end, okay,
the head, like toward the middle.
Yeah, I got
when
you.
He's first there, and he's now like convinced it's real and supernatural. All of a sudden,
this is when he's chopping the tree.
This is when he finds the heads, and then he's digging up the body. He goes, somebody took the head. Whoever has the head is controlling the horseman.
Okay,
we need to bring the head back, and we'll stop the curse. It's like, how do you know this?
Okay,
you've not been into magic. You're all about analytical science, and now all of a sudden you're telling the townspeople how to stop a spell. And you all of a sudden know that the Hessian is being controlled by someone who has the head.
Right.
I thought that was just kind of preposterous. And I was just kind of like, that definitely took me out of the movie for the first time. It never used to. But now I'm like, how do you all of a sudden know this?
Yeah.
I mean, I know we got to push the story along, but couldn't you read it in Katrina's books or, find out from somebody? I just don't understand how he all of a sudden knows what to do.
Yeah. I think if it was somebody who believed in the occult or had an
understanding.
Because when he first shows up, it's almost like, it's science is science and everything else is hocus pocus and it's not real and blah, 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 blah. So he positions himself as somebody who is a skeptic, a Scully, but for some reason there's a switch where he becomes the Mulder and you don't really get that moment. You don't really get that. Like, I get that. I understand that makes sense. What did you think about his backstory with his mother and his father, and his mother's played by Lisa Marie? What did you think about that? Does that fit here?
I don't think it's necessary. Like I get that it kind of connects him into the world of the supernatural as well, and why he might be a little more scared of it. So I guess that works in terms of where his fear comes from.
Right.
But I think he's already a fearful guy. He doesn't like looking at the bloated body in New York at the very beginning.
Yep. So do you think we need it? Because the only thing it serves the purpose of is he solves the mystery when he's doing the thing, which doesn't make any sense. But when he's using I can't remember what they call it, with the bird and the cage.
The Thumograph or something. Yeah.
Do we? I don't really think we need any of that backstory. I know you want it for the character, but
It connects him a little bit more to Katrina in terms of being a love angle.
sure.
Gives him kind of an Oedipus kind of thing, actually. But
Sure.
it's still kind of, she's into witchcraft. His mother was, or a child of the earth, as he calls it, or child of nature.
Right.
So I guess you need it there, but I don't think you need it as much.
Right.
Unless it helps him solve the case. Which
And it doesn't.
Like if she said something that helps him understand how to stop
Right.
the Headless Horseman, absolutely put that in there.
I mean, like, I think initially when I first saw the film, and maybe even a little bit now at this watch, I think I always thought that she was either accused of being a witch by her husband, or that she was a witch. She was somebody who tapped into that kind of world where that gave Ichabod his first, like, his knowledge of the occult or his curiosity. But she wasn't. The father was just a maniac, and he was somebody who was just abusive, and he just locked her up for some unknown reason.
I mean, she could still be a witch. We don't really know. There's a scene where she floats up in the sky,
but I imagine.
But we don't know if that's part of his dream or if he actually saw that, because clearly there are real witches.
Yeah,
but we don't know.
So that's what we're saying in here, there are real witches. Yeah. No, I agree.
So I think those were the things that really kind of took me out.
So just the Johnny Depp at making the jump that whoever has the head
the all of a sudden understanding of how the magic works and how the curse works. Because the other thing is, like, some of the other people are going along with it, and Katrina seems to know a lot about magic, but it's like, well, then why did they even need Ichabod? Where did all this happen? Like, it just kind of pulled me out. Like, if you kind of know the curse and how it works, or if a layman who doesn't know anything about magic and doesn't believe in magic knows how to stop the curse, then what are y'all doing?
Well, what is the conspiracy? Like, what? Let's break that down, because I don't remember it. All right,
it's complicated.
It's his friends conspire to what? Steal his land.
So Lady Van Tassel used to have land. Like, she was a poor servant girl. Her mother was a poor servant girl.
Yep.
Her and her sister, single mother, was accused of being a witch when she was poor and asking for help from the landlord that lived around there.
Which was Van Garrett and Van Tassel,
Van Garrett, not Van Tassel at the time.
Right.
Van Tassel came into power, became kind of like the landowner around there. Lady Van Tassel, whatever her first name used to be, decided to, had become a witch as a child, found the body of the Hessian soldier, made a deal with the devil. Hey, he's going to work for me. And in return, you can have my soul once I get my revenge.
Right.
Married Van Tassel later on in life as his second wife after Katrina's died.
Well, she killed her.
After she killed her.
She became her house. She became her nursemaid or housemaid, and she poisoned her. Yep.
Worked her way, and so she could get in the will. And the only way to get out of the will into the will is to be the last remaining heir.
I think my question is, how does she convince these 5 dudes to go along with it? Or is it just the Reverend Steenwick she does? Because
the Reverend that she convinces to go along with it. And then she convinces the doctor to be silent because she knows about him having an affair. So she's got to kill them one by one, the people that know about the will, so she can destroy the will that has Katrina as the only person who's going to get the money, and then kill Katrina off, get all the money and land, and basically take back or get revenge. Not take back what was hers, but get revenge. And
then she kills that servant girl out in the to pretend that it's her.
That it's her because she's dead.
But I felt like that was like that felt out of place. It was just like, oh, then I killed her. I'm like, all right.
I don't get why she had to take herself out of the picture. Yeah, because no one was accusing her at the time.
Yeah.
Unless she only did it because then Johnny Depp or Ichabod knew about her. But that's kind of convenient as
well. So did you notice that I get in the notes, you might have probably seen this in the notes, but there are some scenes in the movie are purposely in there to mimic older versions of this story.
Yeah. Like, I know that he filmed a lot of Tim Burton filmed a lot of scenes to mimic the 1954, I believe, Disney version of Sleepy Hollow. So you've got the Headless Horseman with the pumpkin head, and he throws it at the screen.
In the covered bridge.
Yeah, in the covered bridge. And the frogs.
58.
That's close. Okay. And the frogs are croaking Ichabod and Horseman.
From not just from the Disney version. I don't know if is that the one that was animated?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So he's obviously mimicking that to just kind of like an homage, which I like. You have to have the covered bridge scene. I know in this one,
absolutely,
they do it that it's Braun, playing a joke on him.
Yeah.
Which, I don't mind that, but you have to have that scene because
the original story wasn't always Braun playing a joke on him, and Ichabod just scared himself out of Sleepy Hollow.
Yeah, but then there was was it like that?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know why I thought that. Okay, yeah, but I like it still nonetheless.
Oh, sure.
I think you have to have that scene in there. If you didn't have that scene, I probably would have been disappointed. Like, you got to have the covered bridge scene. That's the whole point.
It's classic Sleepy Hollow.
And also when Ichabod falls back onto the horse backwards during the final chase, that's also in the cartoon. Mm-hmm. So they did that as well, which I like.
Yeah, there are some nice callbacks. And I mean, the whole thing is a callback to older movies, from the Hammer Film Productions,
right?
Which is why he got Christopher Lee, which is why that was his whole aesthetic. That's what he was going for.
So to follow up on Butler, Tim Burton grew up on Hammer Film Productions, movies like Dr. Jekyll and Sister Hyde, Frankenstein, Bride of Frankenstein, and other Roger Corman films. He also used the influence of Black Sunday for this movie. So he used a lot of that within the movie. That's why he took the movie. He actually took this movie after, I can't remember what happened with Superman Lives, but he was supposed to direct Superman Lives, and
Superman Lives was
like a complete,
that's a whole thing,
what show. And so he took this after that. So it might've just been like, let's just do something I really like. And
that's exactly what it was. Yeah.
So I thought that was cool too. Also, in terms of inspiration, Johnny Depp modeled his performance after, Angela Lansbury in Death on the Nile, not obviously the one that just came out 2-3 years ago. Basil Rathbone in the 1939 Sherlock Holmes series, and Roddy McDowall's acting style. So that's where Johnny Depp got his influence for how to play his Ichabod Crane.
But what I think is interesting is he hates it so much he's never seen this film.
He doesn't know.
He doesn't like his performance.
He doesn't. No. He doesn't like any of his performance. He doesn't watch any of his movies.
Oh, okay. Because I saw the note that he hasn't watched this one.
He doesn't watch his own films because he's super critical, which I can understand because I think Joaquin Phoenix doesn't watch his movies either, right?
Adam Driver doesn't.
No,
you can't even show Adam Driver a scene, or he walks
I think
out
Phoenix doesn't either. I would be like that too. I wouldn't want to watch it. I'd be like, I'm done. I'm moving on.
I'd be 50-50 because you got to know what you did wrong.
Maybe when I'm older. I'd watch it. Who knows? But you would always just see the mistakes. That's probably.
Oh, sure. It would definitely get in your head.
Yeah. I didn't know that Ray Park was actually playing the Horseman.
I knew and then forgot and then read it again.
So that was, I don't know what his inspiration was. Having no head.
Having no head. I guess it was the first time it was an actor had his head digitally removed for the part. So it wasn't just some guy in a stuffy suit that's like above him. Mm-hmm. He was actually, the head was digitally removed. So the horseman actually moved like a headless horseman instead of like some guy who can't see anything out of a shirt.
I read that he was wearing a blue ski mask.
Right, because that's the scheme of everything.
But that makes sense. I mean, okay, good.
What do you think of the headless horseman getting the kid?
Yeah, so my note was, I had a note and it goes, this is my note. So the horseman killed the Killian kid, right? And then I'm reading the facts and I'm like, holy crap, he did.
Killed the kid.
And like you actually can see the head of the kid's head. He beheads the kid. And this is like a 5-year-old, right?
It's got to be 5 or 6, yeah.
So you can actually see the head of him in the sack, I think, at one point. It's like really brief.
That's the last thing he's stuffing in. But I guess originally you actually saw the head. And they had to cut it or else it would be NC-17. I love it.
I mean, that's just like, oh my God, he's killing that kid too.
Tim Burton's note is like, kids are always safe in horror movies. And as a kid watching horror movies, it always frustrated me that the kid was always safe and was never in real danger.
Yeah.
So I decided, the kid can die.
Oh man, that's rough. That is rough. But hey, I mean, I got to respect that.
It kind of goes against the horseman's actions, though. He's only supposed to be killing the people that know.
Well, yeah, that was one of the. That's one of the
5-year-old no.
That's one of the criticisms of this. Like he's fighting, he's fighting a bunch of people, but like when Braun and Ichabod are fighting him,
right?
And Ichabod's like, he doesn't want you. He ends up slicing Braun in half
because he did want Braun was there at the meeting.
No, but he wasn't after him. He was walking away from them.
He wasn't ordered to kill him at the time,
right?
But Braun was a target.
But still, that was the thing.
Yeah,
it wasn't like,
don't piss me off.
So I don't know. Yeah, I guess maybe he thought the kid knew something too. But yeah, I noticed that they don't show it. They don't show it on screen if you're scared about that. But yeah,
he bursts through the fleet. He grabs him.
Yeah.
And you're just like, whoa.
Something I should have mentioned before that I didn't was that this film was nominated for 3 Academy Awards for cinematography, Lubezki, costume design, Colleen Atwood, and art direction and set direction, Peter Young and Richard Heinrichs, and they actually won an Oscar. So kudos to them. But
Nice.
Butler, as you know, I like to play. Who won this Oscars? You remember? You ready to go for this?
Yeah.
Here we go. So who won for the cinematographer? Who won that best cinematography? It would be for the 2000 Oscars,
for
but
1999
movies. We have here they are in random order.
Okay.
So obviously,
Oh, good. You're doing it random because I'm going to remember
exactly.
the order. If you say.
well, I'm not putting the winner first, like that kind of thing, or maybe I am. Emmanuel Lubezki was for Sleepy Hollow. Let's say Legend of Sleepy Hollow. He did not win. End of the Affair, Richard Pratt. American Beauty, Conrad Hall. The Insider, Dante Spinati, and Snow Falling on Cedars, Robert Richardson, which is a beautifully shot film.
American Beauty.
He did win American Beauty. I know you don't like American Beauty either.
It shot really well.
Terrible. You should really watch American Beauty again. Why don't you like it?
A lot of. I don't like the characters. I don't think they're very
So
realistically
good.
drawn.
Are you
I think
kidding
it's
me?
well shot.
Are you kidding me?
I don't think. It's
Oh, you know what? I remember back in the day when we were talking about doing Forgotten Cinema, like what is it called? Forgotten Face Off, Forgotten Fight
Club.
Fight Club. That one of the movies.
Absolutely.
I would definitely fight you on that. Not like physical fight, but like verbally. I assault you verbally. So I talked about the set a little bit. The set of Sleepy Hollow was created from the ground up in 3 months. And at the time, it was the largest set built in England before Billy Elliot. I guess a set of Billy Elliot. And then I'm trying to think about what in Billy Elliot did they build?
I guess an entire city block.
That town area?
I would guess.
Holy cow. I can't believe that.
I was thinking the same thing. I was like, wasn't that filmed on location?
Yes, I thought it was. I guess I was wrong.
The rooftops.
Wow. But so this Sleepy Hollow town was larger than that. So, and also the Western Woods was a soundstage, which when you watch it, you're like, oh yeah. But I said we'd get to the behind the scenes stuff with the Kevin Yeager. Do you want to get into that? Do you know about that?
I know a little bit about it. So I guess he was set to. He's a makeup artist. Obviously, Field was saying his credits. He was set to direct this film as his first feature, and then something happened. He got removed. I don't know. I didn't see why he was removed.
He was. I'm trying to find that note. He was. This movie was with another company, I believe.
It was originally MGM.
Right. He was okay. So it was gonna be. It was with. Yeah. It was gonna be a low budget production. It was gonna be this pretentious quote. This is from Adam Schroeder, the producer. It was going to be, quote, a pretentious slasher film with spectacular murder every 5 minutes or so. And Paramount disagreed with it. They said, no, we don't want to do that. They never really saw it as a commercial movie, Schroeder says. The studio thinks old literary classic, and they think The Crucible. We start developing it before horror movies come back. So I guess it was just a disagreement. They got rid of him. They actually demoted him to makeup. He did makeup effects on this. And he became like, he got a story credit, and then basically they gave it to Tim Burton when he came in. So that's a tough pill to swallow because he doesn't do anything after that. So I thought that was interesting. But then when Tim Burton comes on, he brings on Tom Stoppard as a script doctor, which we said before, and he basically toned down the violence of the script.
I saw that. I'd be interested to see how violent it was beforehand.
Well,
this is the most violent.
Kids' heads were getting chopped off.
This is the most violent script that he's definitely filmed.
Yeah. So I thought that was interesting. So there's a little bit of a behind the scenes there in terms of just, what was going on. But this happens in all films.
Yeah, we
this
talked about that before
movies,
in Forgotten Cinema. People like have their first shot.
Yeah.
And then the studio's like, no, we're going to bring in this guy because he already knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
It's just like, well, it's the circular system of Hollywood, like the snake eating its own tail.
Sure.
You can't get in unless you're in, but you can't get in unless you're in, but then you can't get in. Well, that's how it works.
Oh yeah. And then all this drama that we're talking about started in 1993. So this drama started like 5 years before production. Production was 98. So this was like 5 years in the making. Thing. Yes, obviously. Yes, an ongoing thing. So
that makes sense when you said before horror movies started to come back, because by 1999 horror movies are back. Well, by 1999 you got Scream, all the Dimension films.
Scream was 96, right?
Yeah, 96 or 97.
96. Because then you had An What You Did Last Summer, which was 97.
Yep.
And then you just had and we're gonna do one next week that came out in '98.
Just a ton of those teenage,
just all those
movies,
all those '90s horror films, which I love I love a lot of them. I love the spirit of them. Let's put it that way. They're not my slasher '80s that we grew up with, or I grew up with,
right?
But definitely the '90s horror films were its own genre. I think we've talked about this, about the genre of horror in terms of where it is and where it's going.
Sure, I think we'll get into this next week. You're getting into next week's episode.
We probably will. Would you have liked Marlon Brando as the Hessian?
I read that. No, not at the point that
Like,
he was
how
at.
old was he?
He was in his 80s, or he would have been
And
close to 80.
he probably wasn't in shape.
He was way out of shape. This is a little bit before he did that heist movie that he did. I can't remember the name of it. Was this the heist?
No, that's with De Niro?
No, he did another heist movie.
Oh, wait a minute.
in
You're talking about where
late
the
90s.
family business?
Something like that. I don't remember. But he's huge in that movie.
We did whatchamacallit? What's the movie we did with Matthew Broderick? The Freshman. When was
Freshman, 1990 or 89?
Yeah. I don't know, man. Yeah.
No.
What was Moreau? Dr. Moreau was 97.
No.
96? Moreau was in the mid-90s?
Maybe 96. It had to have been 96. It was right before Val Kilmer did
yeah, you're going to,
Batman.
I'm not trying to demean anybody, but we're not going to get on a horse.
Where are these sharp teeth? No.
Yeah, I know. Right?
No, I think Christopher Walken does an amazing job as the Hessian, and he doesn't even speak.
Yeah.
He's got no lines.
No.
He's uncredited, I believe, in the original cut.
Was he uncredited?
I think so.
Oh, I didn't know that.
It's just, he's really, really good. And immediately, as soon as you see him, it's Christopher Walken.
Of course.
The bright eyes, the sharp teeth, the crazy hair. I think he's great. And that last kiss he gives.
Oh, when he cuts
before
her.
he takes the Miss Van Tassel away.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
What did you, speaking of that, what did you think about the CGI?
I mean, for the most part, the CGI was, there were two instances of CGI you really notice. The witch with her skull popping out.
Yep.
Which was cartoony and stupid.
Yep.
But classically Tim Burton. And then the Hessian when he gets his head come back. I thought that was okay. I thought it was a little jarring because there hadn't been special effects that whole time. But I prefer that to him just putting it on and then cutting away to their reactions. Then all of a sudden he's got his head back.
Mm-hmm.
I liked seeing the kind of tendons and stuff come up.
What about when he jumps into the horse and him jump out and jump into the tree?
I thought that was okay. It's just kind of like you're jumping into a tarp.
Right.
It didn't bother me.
And I think the blood in his dream is CGI when that
when
thing
she explodes
opens.
and his mom explodes.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
blood. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's a little, yeah.
Although I love the blood. We're talking about blood when he's doing the autopsy and he doesn't know how to make the first cut and then it just squirts on his face. I thought that was hilarious. I love that.
Speaking of the blood, did you know that because the exteriors of this movie were shot with a blue filter to kind of give it that look that you see in the movie? So the blood, when they're doing exteriors, had to be actually orange in order for it to look red. Yeah. I thought that was interesting. I think that goes into, what was the movie we did that was black and white? And we were talking about how different, there was different colors for black and white. It couldn't just be, you're not going to put red up. It's going to come off. It's not going to play red.
Frankenweenie.
Yeah.
They had to recolor everything.
Yeah, so
they had to refigure out how people made black and white films in the 30s.
Right.
Like it had been known to the people in the 30s and then lost.
Yeah.
Just like 60, 70 years later, something they had to refigure out. Like blue can't just be blue.
Yeah.
If you want it to kind of look the way blue would look in black and white.
Well, I'm waiting for 20 years from now when people want to shoot on film and they have to ask some of the old guys, hey, how do you shoot on film?
I don't understand.
And Christopher Nolan comes down from his pedestal. Film is God. And he starts doing it.
Use the light meter. The what?
What's that? The computer just tells AI just tells me how to do that. Lubezki and Burton actually thought about shooting this film black and white and 4:3, which I was like,
no, but that's why it's got the black and white. I wouldn't mind the 4:3 aspect.
I don't know about the 4:3, but I will say this. I started noticing at the end of the film, and I don't know if you noticed this, but there were scenes in the church when the lightning would strike, it was black and white.
Oh,
yeah, and there were pops of color in terms of red or whatever, but like it was black and white and I was like, is that throughout the movie or is that just towards the ending?
Did think toward the end it started to get more and more like just the colors that were used on set became blacks and whites and grays, and that's it.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit of blue around the fog, and that's really all that was there.
Yeah. So I thought that was really cool. I was like, I wanted to go back. I didn't. I wanted to go back and see, like, wait a minute, is it all like that? But it was not. Do you know that they're doing a reboot?
I mean, it's a Washington Irving story from the 1700s. So,
but this is like from June of last year that Paramount is rebooting this with Lindsay Beer to write and direct. I had no idea who Lindsay Beer was, so I looked her up. She is doing the upcoming Pet Sematary Bloodlines. She did the TV show The Magic Order, and that's it. And then I'm like, then I look at her list of like what else she's got coming out. Look at this list that she's working on as a writer. Now, obviously, who knows if what you read on the internet's right.
Right.
Star Trek 4, Mask, Mobile Armored Strike Command, Short Circuit, Bambi. And there's other ones too. There's like 4 other ones. Like, so she's doing all these movies. So, I mean, that's great. But Pet Sematary Bloodlines must be really good if they want her to take on Sleepy Hollow.
Pet Cemetery Bloodlines is coming direct to Paramount Plus.
Well,
although it's got David Duchovny in it.
Well, here's the thing. You can't really, in this day and age of streamers, you really can't hold that against anybody anymore. It's not like it's not good enough for theatrical, because Prey should have been in movie theaters.
That's true.
Prey is a big time theatrical film. You could have put Prey in IMAX and it would have done very well.
Yep.
But that's just not, it's not the focus. The focus is get money, get people on
the streamers.
So, yeah, exactly. It's no longer about dumping on TV anymore.
But I mean, when she says she's remaking the Sleepy Hollow film, I mean, you can go so many ways. It doesn't necessarily have to be a remake of the original.
I mean, I don't think you should, because I've seen it. I think the 1999 version is done well enough where you've done it.
Yeah.
Do something different.
But I think you can do that story plenty of different ways.
See, I wouldn't mind having that story still be canon, and it's like a sequel, and it's in the present, and it's like, oh yeah, I heard this stuff, and you just kind of Hessian comes back, like that stuff.
They did that. It was called Sleepy Hollow, the TV series. It ran for 3 seasons.
Well,
it started out really good, and then went.
Was that a Fox show?
Yeah.
What do you expect?
First 5 episodes are great. I mean, I wouldn't mind you doing the story and making it Bron the Headless Horseman, faking out Ichabod
and his family.
But maybe, actually
his
killing
headless
other people
wife
to try to like get back at him for some reason. But a guy that believes in the supernatural blowing it out of proportions.
Right.
Could be interesting.
So we were talking about how, not to change subject, but that's what we do here. We're talking about scenes that he mimics, and we're talking about the 1958 version. Yeah, but I think we're also talking about that movie was called The Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad.
Yes.
Right? So I just want to make sure that we had that, because you talked about the frogs croaking Ichabod and Headless Horseman. I said the chase scene where he runs down, he's on horse and he in the back, all that stuff. So
there's the classic cartoon with the scrawny human one.
Right. So I just want to make sure that we had that down pat, that we had that information correct, so we don't get yelled at. Which, who cares if we do? Sometimes we get things wrong.
There's 2 different cartoons, you guys.
People get.
Come on.
Listen, I try. The windmill that exploded.
That windmill's awesome.
So so number one, that wasn't on set. It was too big.
They had to make a 4th scale model.
Right. But if you're sitting here going, why would the windmill explode?
I wish I was.
I didn't understand that. Why does it explode? Why does the windmill actually explode?
Because apparently flour in high quantities is more explosive than gunpowder. Keep your flour away from the stove. Stop making bread.
Highly combustible in large quantities. Highly combustible. I'm like, I almost want to see that in action, but not really. But like, I was like, holy cow, what? So that's interesting.
Well, there's apparently
really, really interesting.
A few deaths a year from flour explosions in mills still.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah. I was like, what?
And we eat that.
Never going near a stove when I'm eating bread again.
Seriously, what happens if you spill flour? Like, what's the large quantity? Like, how large?
I think you need sacks and sacks.
We worked at a place that had sacks of flour,
but not near an open flame.
Well,
I mean, they could be.
Why don't we get into some reviews, as I like to do?
All right. Give me some. Throw them on me.
I don't know, because you kind of like this film, so I don't want to. Maybe I should look for the bad ones. Let me look for the ones that criticize. Okay, here we go. Mick LaSalle from the San Francisco Chronicle criticized Burton's perceived image as a creative artist. All Sleepy Hollow has going for it is art direction, and even in that, it falls back on cliche. Crapping all over Tim Burton. What are you
talking about?
Crapping all over Tim Burton.
If you think about Tim Burton in one way, yes, all he is going for in art direction, sure. Mm-hmm. But it's a good direction. Mm-hmm. And it's really unique and really interesting. Mm-hmm. And has inspired numerous, like, he's one of the most inspirational people in terms of like avant-garde, expressionistic work, probably in the last 30, 40 years.
Right.
What are you talking about? Talking out your butt, dude. No.
David Sterrett of the Christian Science Monitor praised Burton's filmmaking and the highly spirited acting of cast. I love the high spirited acting of cast. That seems
That's
almost
really
like a put down.
pretentious, yeah.
But it's almost like backhanded. Oh, you guys are really spirited. You really spirited. Good job.
Did you like my performance? It was spirited.
It was spirited. But he believed that the script, Andrew Kevin Walker's writing, was too repetitious, and formulaic for the third act. Do you agree? Because you said you had some issues.
It does kind of wrap up quick.
Mm-hmm.
Like, hey, let's get Johnny. Ichabod's in a carriage. He's leaving. Oh, wait, no, I figured it out.
Mm-hmm.
We don't really get a chance, which I never like in murder mysteries, not getting a chance to figure it out with the detective.
Right.
This is another case of just, now tell me your backstory. We never knew it was you. Tell me why you did all this. And what was the clue that led me to really know this? So I do agree with that.
Okay.
But I don't know if you can poke holes in Sleepy Hollow for that, because again, that's literally every murder mystery. I love Knives Out, but Knives Out got the same problem at the end. It's just like, why was it Bandit or whatever his name is? Well, because we need it to be.
Who Bandit? Who?
Chris Evans' character. He's got some kind of name like that.
I don't remember his name. Bandit?
Yeah, Bandit or something.
McSmokey and the Bandit?
Oh, maybe. Yeah.
I'm on that. All right. So why are we saying this movie is forgotten, Butler?
I think when you think about Tim Burton movies, for the most part, like you said, you wouldn't recommend this to people who, like, you wouldn't really recommend this to people.
Oh, like, yeah, in general?
Like, you wouldn't be like, yeah, you should watch Sleepy Hollow. I think I really like this film, and even I would probably, for most people, if they like Tim Burton, I would say Nightmare Before Christmas, Batman. If you really like Tim Burton, Batman Returns is even more creepy. Beetlejuice is probably my favorite.
Edward Scissorhands.
Edward Scissorhands.
You don't like Edward Scissorhands?
I have to watch. I haven't watched it in a long time.
Should.
I used to think it was boring when I was
No, see, I think you would really appreciate it because Edward Scissorhands has a lot of emotion that you really don't.
I probably would get now.
Yeah.
Yeah. I used to watch it when I was a kid, but because my mom liked it, but I used to think it was kind of boring.
It's I think coming off of Batman, I think you're expecting something. And I also want to watch the trailers. I think the trailers kind of
make you think it's something.
Yeah, but it's like a really good holiday film. It's sweet. I don't know.
Sure.
It's just sweet. Yeah.
I'm a big fan of Beetlejuice. I think Beetlejuice. That's also partly Michael Keaton and Alec Baldwin.
Still Tim Burton.
The cast is great, but Tim Burton's there.
Jack Nicholson.
And Beetlejuice?
No, Batman.
For Batman. Okay, yeah.
I thought you were talking about you. Oh, that's right. You said you were.
I said Beetlejuice. I do love Batman. Batman was probably my favorite growing up, but now as an adult, I think I like
Jack
Beetlejuice.
Nicholson was in Beetlejuice. And Sam.
He's I gotta watch it again.
Oh, the real film.
He's the flat guy. But again, we just named a bunch of movies to recommend before that, and I think that I think this is a good starting movie for Tim Burton. Like, he's so weird for me. Start out with this movie. It's a thriller, like you said. I think it's got a lot of Tim Burton style, but not too much. It doesn't have those weird trees, and it's kind of a more realistic set and setting. The story is just a murder mystery. Start with that. It's more mainstream, and then go from there.
Do you think that Tim Burton has with the advent of CGI has negatively affected Tim Burton's work in terms of his current work right now? Because I find that I like older Tim Burton stuff. And I'm not saying that because, he's lost it as a storyteller, but I just think that when having to be creative with the tools that he has, practical effects, I think he does better. Whereas something like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory
I despise Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Extremely just CGI laden. And I'm just like, I lose it. I lose like interest. So that's my question. Do you think that, Tim Burton without the CGI is a much stronger storyteller than with it?
I'd have to get a list of
that is a little. You'd have to go through the whole thing. Yeah, that's probably.
I know I don't like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Dumbo isn't really him. I will agree. Okay, I don't like the Alice movies that much either.
Okay.
I do think there's an over-reliance on CG and just effects to like wow the audience, but there's not as much maybe thought and heart as there should be in the Alice movies. It's all just, here, look, Johnny Depp's kooky, and we're in this weird CGI world.
Yeah.
So I will agree with that.
I mean, I love Big Fish. I think Big Fish is
Big Fish is great, and it's his most personal film.
Yeah. And I'm not saying I'm not anti CGI.
I don't like Dark Shadows, but that's not CGI. That's just not a good movie. But he did Sweeney Todd in 2007, and that's almost all practical other than the blood.
True. The CGI there is just the atmosphere, the background.
The back to make it expand London.
Stuff like that. Probably some of the blood.
And that's after Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Yeah. I think that, like, I don't know. I'm not hating on CGI, but I think that it allows you to do things maybe that you shouldn't do. Like maybe you shouldn't have some of these films with the CGI. Maybe you just shouldn't do everything you need to do.
But he's also kind of, with the exception of maybe Dark Shadows and like Frankenweenie was probably his last really Tim Burton movie.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got The Killers. He did a music video. Then he did Big Eyes, which I don't even remember.
Big Eyes is with it's with what's Lois Lane. Oh my goodness,
Amy Adams.
Yes, it's with Amy Adams and Christoph Waltz. Where it's the famous painting where she was painting those pictures with the girl with the big eyes.
I recall. I never saw it.
And the husband was just like stealing credit for him. So it's like a biography drama. It's probably more along the lines of like a Big Fish.
Sure. Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children is okay. It's more of a kid's movie.
I think that was meant to have more than one movie.
Absolutely. It's supposed to be a series.
And that's how it felt. That
you
movie.
Got Dumbo, Alice in Wonderland. It's like when he's forced to be in these little Disney when he's forced to be in these little Disney movies, I think or not little, but these Disney movies, he's forced into a particular bubble.
Yeah.
Well, I just don't know if we've been able to see.
It's a work for hire kind of thing. I got you. And there's nothing wrong with that.
See a Tim Burton movie.
People you got expenses. You got to pay for your kids to go to school. You got to pay for your houses. I get it. I totally get it. So there's no shame.
So what's his upcoming work on IMDb? Beetlejuice 2. Oh, he's doing Beetlejuice 2. That could that could be a return to form.
Yeah, I don't know. I want something that's less CGI.
Yeah.
I've always said this, not to cut you off. I apologize for cutting off, but I've always said this. These directors that we grew up with, Spielberg, Scorsese, Burton, everyone. Yeah. I would love them to just be like, here's $5 million. Go make a movie. And you're not going to get any of your bells and whistles. You just use your talent. Yeah, you're going to get people helping you out. I'm sure you're going to get, hey, I'll work with you. That's fine.
Sure.
But like, you're not going to get the big time budget to do,
you can't do Bridge of Spies,
right,
all the backdrop, and all that kind of stuff.
Go do a movie. I would love to see just that type of film. Like, and I don't think they would disappoint. I think you would get something that would be exciting and just like, it would be something brand new. And It would be a return to form. I would love to see that.
I mean, the one thing I will say with Beetlejuice 2 is you see the props. Like some guy sold a chair from Beetlejuice 2 already.
Really?
Is a 100-pound chair. Stole it right off the set.
That's great.
I don't know how I did that.
That's great.
The house has been rebuilt and it's an actual set. So like they're filming on locations.
Is Alec Baldwin in this?
No. Oh. Just Winona Ryder, or maybe he has a cameo. Just Winona Ryder and Michael Keaton so far. But I mean, you might get, it depends on what the afterlife looks like. Does it still look like all built sets and all that kind of stuff? That'll
be disappointing.
Exactly. This could be a return to form where this might prove what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
Is he now over reliant, or is he going back to his roots? 'Cause now that he's not constrained by a Disney archetype that he's dealing with, what's he going to do?
Well, Disney owns like a giant chunk of Hollywood right now.
Well, I just mean like doing a Dumbo or doing an Alice in Wonderland.
Sure.
Like Disney let him do Frankenweenie, and Frankenweenie's definitely very Tim Burton.
Yeah. Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Well, that might have been, hey, fine, go do Frankenweenie.
Yeah.
These for us. Well, I forget how we got to this tangent because I think that I asked you why we think it's forgotten.
Well, I just think
did you answer
he's
it?
got so many other films that you're going to recommend before this.
Okay.
And we're now at 24 years since it's been out.
All right. Well, that's all right. It's good to know.
All right.
Butler, as I ask, I'd always at the end of every episode.
Sure.
Where can they find us?
You can find us on Apple, Spotify, or YouTube now, because that's right. If you're looking at me right now, if you're not just listening to me, but looking at me, we're on YouTube.
We apologize.
You should like and subscribe. All that good stuff helps the video grow. It really does help. I know YouTubers say it all the time, but then you see the ones that don't, and you see the algorithm. I actually watch a YouTube channel where the guy was like, don't do it. I don't think it matters. And then 4 months later goes, guys, I know I said it doesn't matter, but I think it really matters. You should like and subscribe. I've changed my mind. I really think it actually helps.
I'm just along for the ride. I don't know what's going on. Butler, just like and listen to him.
So like, subscribe. We'll see you next week. Field, what are we doing next week?
We are staying in the 90s. We're going back a year. We're going to go catch a movie called Disturbing Behavior. I don't know if you've ever seen it before, ever heard of it. James Marsden, Katie Holmes. I hear it's Razor. So that's what we're doing. We're doing Disturbing Behavior, directed by David Nutter, X-Files. So I think there's that added bonus for us, right?
That's all I'm going to talk about.
Whoa. I think you can kind of get an idea of what next week's going to be like.
Yeah.
Until then, I am Mike Field.
I'm Mike Butler.
And this has been Forgotten Cinema. Wait, Forgotten Horror.
Keep it spooky, y'all.
Hey, everyone. Thanks for watching the show.
Yeah, if you like what you saw, check out all the other videos we have. They should be there, maybe there. I don't know. They could be anywhere, but check out all those other videos. Like and subscribe, like we say in the show. It really helps out. And we hope you like what you saw. If you're just watching this while October's still going on, keep it spooky. And if October's over, you can still keep it spooky. Don't listen to what anyone else says. That Christmas stuff is out way too early.
Bye, guys.